Well, I thought it would be an opportune moment to check out what our swarms have done. We've got about 20 odd swarms that we've put it down here. I've isolated them, which is the good thing to do, just in case they've got any diseases. And so we're going to go through them and see that they're healthy and if the queen's laying, and what sort of, some of them are in crazy ass boxes that I haven't changed them out of the box they're in because I wanted to see how healthy they were. Oh, golly, as the sun cracks over the thing. Not that we're here at sunrise, not by no any stretch of the imagination, but we're here, which is all good. Over here, over my shoulder, you can see we've got these little few hives. Now, these are the random swarms that were caught, and I'm not 100% sure of their origin. The other swarms that we had were basically from our own apiary, and so I figured, well, they're not too hectic because I know what they're doing. These ladies just turned up, and I figured I'll keep them by themselves, and we'll just go through them again today and make sure there's no diseases and just see what the queen's doing. We've got one interesting box to have a look at. She's sort of hanging from the roof of the box was upside down in the shed, and so she made a nest on the top. So I've shaken her downstairs on some new brood frame, but she doesn't look real busy over here at the minute, so hopefully I haven't done her a damage, but you can find out with me. On and on it goes, the excitement. A little bit of shrapnel smoke. Have you ever actually been at your bee box when you're in an emergency and you just can't be bothered because you've only got one box in your backyard and you don't want to have to go to all the trouble of lighting your smoker? If you've got some reserve smoke in your smoker, like that bit there, that'll actually work. So if you just want one box and you want to be slack, you don't even need to light it up again. So mind you, I've not put that in my book because that could just be... Anyway, it works. Just take my word for it, okay? Oh. Come on, get open. What have I done? Oh, that didn't want to be in it. Righty-o, we've got more than one hive to do, so we're going to light her up. Brrr. It's been a funny old summer down here in Oz. It's been quite cool the last week. Next week's supposed to be crazy hot, so that'll make up for this week being cool. I reckon if we were in charge of the weather, we'd just dial it up to be beautiful all the time. But I'm not sure what we'd do about getting the rain, though. That could be interesting. All right, Harry. Just as well we had that left in there, because I didn't pack any more. So remind me to get some more before we go to the next job. Oh, that's good. Right. Right. On we go. I figure we'll start this side and just work through and just have a bit of a look at what's going on. It won't be a completely intense inspection, but it'll be intense enough for you to see what's going on. So if you happen to have some swarms, don't put them with your healthy bees, just in case. This is a good option to actually isolate them out. At least wait for a couple of rounds of brood just to make sure that they didn't bring any disease with them, because you never know. It's always a bit weird when they just randomly turn up from outer space. Well, usually they turn up from someone else's beehive or out of a tree somewhere. Anyway, depending on how large your operation is, it's a good idea to isolate the swarms in the short term before you integrate them into the whole system. So, hence why they're here by themselves. Anyway, we'll just poke our head in this, little girls, and see what's going on. Give them a little bit of a smoke up. Cool, so we just undo our little hive hitch, have a bit of a peekaboo. Sound busy. I wonder if you could make that an instrument. You imagine that in the orchestra. What would you be? You would be the bee player. Righty-o, ladies, what are you doing? You look pretty relaxed at the minute, which is good. Cool. So we just get this little queen excluder off. They don't really need on here, but since it was on here, it might as well stay with this particular hive. I've stuck that down a little bit, but that's all right. These are probably not the most superior quality queen excluders, but they work, so that's all they need, isn't it? At least with the metal ones you can clean them a bit. The plastic ones I find they're a bit harder to actually clean when you change them between hives, or if you want to clean them up, they're a bit harder to get organised, whereas the metal ones you can just get a bit of a blowtorch and warm them up, melt the stuff off. How friendly are you lot? Well, you're not really running at me too angrily, so that's good. And we'll start on the outside edge here somewhere. Let's push our frame across a bit, see what's going on. Or there's someone in here laying, which is obviously because otherwise there wouldn't be any bees running. And they're bringing in a bit of something. I don't think they're on the best feeding ground ever. And we just want to go through the frames and just see how everybody is. When you're doing a proper brood inspection, you've got to shake your bees off your brood, obviously, because otherwise you can't see everybody. It's a little bit more excited for them, but that's the only way to go about it. So, as you see, then you want to be able to actually see your brood without the bees all over it. The idea, of course, is to make sure that you got some nice little white larvae, which is always good. That's a good start. And to make sure you haven't got any nasty things in here that you don't want. Luckily down here in Oz we don't have any Varroa Mites to worry about, so that's an upside. I can't actually advise you what you're meant to do if you find Varroa Mites in your box, but I'm fairly sure you're meant to get some sort of misting chemical treatment thing, and I'm sure you can Google Varroa Mites if you happen to have them in your country, but we're the one place on earth that hasn't got them yet, so we're going to keep it that way if we can for another week. And because you're shaking your bees off your frames, you don't want to do this on a miserable cold day because you don't want to chill any of your beautiful young larvae that you've got in here. It's a good reason to have a sleep in, so you don't want to be out here first thing in the morning if it's cold. The last thing you want to do as a beekeeper is actually make the girls work any harder than they already are. The idea is you're meant to be working with your bees, not against them, so just remember that they're a bit temperature sensitive. I normally have a bit of a look first before I shake the bees off just to see if I can catch the queen. I mean, you don't need to find her if you can see where she's been. I can see that she's in here laying because she's got a nice lot of young larvae and the girls are coming up and a nice lot of capped brood. But if you see her, it's always fun because you get to kind of determine how she's looking, whether she was the old queen or a new queen, or whether they've already re-queened. All of those options are possible. But so far, she's looking pretty good. These girls aren't too psycho. Not as crazy as those hobbit bees the other day. Oh, there she is, look. Looks like the boss woman looks pretty nice to me. She looks like she hasn't got too much wear and tear on her, so her pattern's nice, her tail's nice and big, so she's got plenty of semen on board. She's not all ruffled around, she's still got a fluffy, what you'd call that, the actual, I guess it's down on their thorax. If that's all shiny, it usually means she's a bit old, but she's not too old, so that's good. The young miss, I'll get another season out of her yet. She's looking good. Obviously, if you do see the queen on a frame, just be a bit nice about it when you put her back in, because the last thing you want to do after all that excitement is to bloom and do her a damage. The fact that they're a young swarm from this season, they're basically consuming all the nectar and pollen and honey that they're bringing in at this stage, because they're trying to build up their population. Unless it's a massive swarm that turns up. I've got a couple that are really huge swarms and they turned up and they filled up the honey super in about a month, which was crazy because they had nothing else to do. But when it's normally a small swarm in your box, you're probably not going to get a honey flow until next season, really, ultimately, unless you're in a really cool spot. Well, that's where we are down here in Oz when there's not enough food. Right, well that's that one good. I'm happy with her. That's one good one. Now where we get everybody upset, we'll have a look at the next one along. Now, this hive here is a bit of entertainment. It was in my bloomin' shed trying to get ready to be dipped. So I had this box on top of another box and the ladies decided that the paper fell out and they decided to swarm in here. So they're actually they're actually up here on top of this base. So they're upside down. So you can imagine the hive's actually hanging in here. And about a month ago or so, I was actually out there fooling around. I was going to move her. And I got organised and so this is a new box at the bottom. And luckily the queen actually fell off of one of the combs and ran into the bottom box. So I put a queen excluder on and I've still got the old comb hanging up the top here. I honestly don't know what this is going to look like in a minute, but we're going to find out together. So interesting, that's what it is. They seem to be going through the little gap in the queen excluder, so I don't know what they're up to. But we'll find out in a minute, shall we? We have a bit of a poke around in there. I think I'm a brave man having you guys follow me along. But anyway, this is what happens sometimes when you get a swarm and it just they do their own thing. And so I'm just trying to rehouse them into a way that makes them sensible. Anyway, we'll lift this up and have a look, shall we? Well, she doesn't feel real heavy, so that's good. That means they've drained all that out, hopefully. Come on. Fucking hell. Get off. Maybe they're still up the top, John. Oh, don't tell me she's run back up here again. Come on, girls, what are you doing? Let's just not make too big a mess. Doesn't look real promising. Maybe she isn't down the bottom too well. Oh, golly. Struth. We'll put it over here for a minute. Actually, we might put it at the front in case she decides to run out. You can see the mess we've got going on here. Oh, don't tell me she didn't stay in the bottom box. God grief. Naughty girl. She doesn't look like she's down here at all, John. Here I was thinking I'd had a great success, but I haven't. I've had an epic fail. Right, okay, we're going to change tacks then. I don't know. Right. I'll tell you what we're going to do is since she's not in here, we're going to try this instead. We're going to take the queen excluder away, tip them back up there where they were, and hopefully... Oh, friggin' hell. I don't know. I'll go and see what resources we've got in the little truck here. Oh, man. Yeah, I was thinking I'd had a win, but there you go. The girls will always come up with an alternative plan. Well, I'm thinking, since they've decided to be uncooperative, we might have to give them a bit more cooperation and make this into a cutout. Put that honeycomb on some frames of our own and put her downstairs, and then let them start again, because it's not acceptable like that, so we've got to do something. Very contrary little miss she is, but anyway, we will not be deterred. One thing about beekeeping, sometimes you just got to take one for the team. Now I reckon I'm going to sit the box just next to this box, and so the girls can run up over the edge once they get to that point where they want to. Of course, when you're doing a cutout and it's not in a perfect beehive, it's a whole nother story altogether, but at least these girls have done it in a nice straight row too, which is cool. So it shouldn't be too complicated, but we will find out in a minute. Rightio, put that around here so we got somewhere to lean everything. What do we got going on, chickie babes? I don't know, ladies. What do you call this mess? Let's see if we can make a bit of a start. So there's not much happening on that, so what we'll do first of all, we're just going to shake these bees off here because there's nothing actually on that. They're probably all actually filled bees anyway. They've made some nice new honeycomb here, so they've had a bit of an effort. I'm just going to go and get something to throw my honeycomb on that I don't want to put in my new box anyway. Oh dear, girls. What a mess. Honestly, what the hell were we thinking? Come on, off you go. Off you go now, chicks. Right, what do we got here? Looks like it's only a fairly new, that stuff. And they're pretty amazing how they can make all this honeycomb though, isn't it? They do not waste too much space, these ladies. Very efficient. I'm just wondering, where are we going to go? I think we're just going to take that sheet off of there and see what happens. Hopefully there's some cool stuff laying under here somewhere. That's hooked to the wall here. Hang on. You pull it gently, you can kind of pick where it's anchored before you rip it to bits too badly. Being that we're technically doing an inspection as well on the way past, that'll just add another dimension to this cutout. But anyway, at least they're not really angry, which is good. I don't think they're over pleased to see us. Let's see where that big sheet's hooked to. It's amazing, this is the little hooked on part just here, and a little bit on the roof, and they're happily going for it. Amazing. Pretty sure if us humans tried to build like this, something would fall to bits for sure. Hasn't got the best laying pattern I've ever seen either, so I'm just wondering whether we've got some new stuff here in the middle again. I'm just sort of wondering how much of this is salvageable and where the boss woman is. That's the other excitement. Obviously they put a lot of effort into making all this honeycomb. Professional beekeeping. This is not what you want to have. If the ag department tries to turn up and have a hive inspection of this, they would not be impressed. Oh, man, that stinks. What do we got? We got a little bit in the corner here too. Just get rid of that little bit there. Off you go. If we're lucky, the boss might have been in there because they're running that way. Just wondering where the captain of the guards is. We probably should have blocked the front of that off. What are you chicks doing in the dirt? Get out of there. Hey, what are you doing, you characters? Well, we're getting rid of most of the population out of the way, which is good. Trying to give them enough time to run out of the way. So the least amount of damage that we do to the actual ladies, the better, I figure. So we've got them running up the side here into the new box, which is good, which is what we want. And that gives them a bit of time to get out of your way. Because in this situation, it's not quite as desperate as when you're stuck in a house or a box where you're you know, the queen's going to have a little hidey hole to run to. She's got nowhere really to run to in this box. So in theory, not needing to panic quite as much. When you're doing a cutout in, like I said, you're doing a cutout in a jolly, I don't know, Etzer box or a telephone box or hell in a tree. She's got lots of nooks and crannies she can go and hide in. Whereas in this situation, she's just really trying just to get away from us, which is fair. Doesn't seem to be a lot of young stuff in here. At least they did it like there was frames in here. They sort of went the right way across. That's something different. Now, can we see anybody important? No, not yet. That looks like a keeper at least anyway. Well, she must still be here because there's a bit of young stuff here now. So she's, at least there's still a queen in here somewhere. That's a good start. Well, she's doing a real good job, but still. I don't think she's the best queen I've ever seen in my life. But anyway, it is what it is while you're here. Sometimes, maybe she's just struggling because she was only coming through that jolly tiny little gap in the queen excluder that they were working through. So perhaps, but I don't know. We will find out. We'll put this in the to be rechecked cupboard very briefly, quickly, shortly. No, what's the wording? Something like that. Don't leave it too long before you come and check me again. Because that's just not I diddle. Is it? You would think they would be cooperative, but no. They just want to do their own thing. They're independent little things. Don't necessarily want to make your life easy as a beekeeper. They just want to do what they're doing. I thought I was going to save myself all this aggravation by just putting the queen down lower and letting them work their own thing out. But anyway, the best laid plans don't always come together, do they? Now's as good a time as any for it to happen anyway. She's a terrible job at laying. There's very little in here that's worth having. It's got a terrible pattern. Got a little bit of young nectar there and that's about it. Doesn't look like there's any sicknesses in here though. They're just not laying. So maybe she was an old queen. Come on, what does that hook to? Nothing. Oh, we got a bit of random wax if nothing else. If you'd like to have a look at some of the honey products that we actually managed to create out of all this madness that you keep watching, click over to the Bush Bee Company website and grab yourself some honey. Oh hell, maybe even grab some of the wife's products because they're pretty cool too. I like the lip balm, and actually if I had a moustache I'd probably use that. We've got a cool doctor in town, he reckons it's awesome with his big handlebar moustache, so who knows, horses for courses. I can't grow a beard, so there you go. I don't really reckon it's worth trying to put all that in there. We're just going to leave that one little bit of brood and make him start from scratch because that there hasn't got a lot of brood in it anyway. It's got a little tiny, that one we put in there had a few eggs and a bit of larvae, but the rest of it hasn't really been laying up, so she might be a bust anyway. Who knows? Of course, that's always the fun of swarms. You never know how they're going to get on. If you don't actually know the origins of the swarm that's turned up, it's best to isolate them, give a bit of research. And if they're like this girl, I probably wouldn't implement her as a queen breeder because she's not doing real flash. But what will probably happen is we'll give her a new queen cell and crank her on with some kick-ass bush bee women. They're almost moved over now. I was just thinking, did I even bring a lid with me? You idiot. Oh, John. Now, it's all right. I can use this base as the lid. Oh, shit. Oh, well, then they can have two entrances for a little while, can't they? Oh, I don't know, honestly. You bloody ruffian. That'll make a temporary lid anyway. Golly, gosh. Mark. Oh, the best laid plans. Shot to hell. Now, we'll come back in a month or so and see if she's laying, and if she's not laying, well, she'll probably get the chop. At least there's no diseases. Well, that's about as successful as that can be for the minute. We've got the ladies actually in a box properly. We've got them on some frames which will make them workable. We've got the shrapnel left over here that's got not much worth having that we'll take home and we can melt that down. And now we'll go on and do the rest of the inspections that we came here to do, which hopefully are a bit more straightforward. So, I don't know, I'm not sure. The lad might put the diddle-diddle-diddle-diddle music on. Well, cool. In some respects, that was good. We got no diseases that I can report at this moment in time. We've got a bit of a straighten out going. I had 2 dead outs, which is pretty common when you get little baby swarms. Those swarms are about the size of your fist. So, you know, if you do get little swarms and you've got a bit more spare time than me, you can shake them together and let them, you know, like obviously get a bigger workforce. The queens will work out what's going on. But I thought those 2 might have made it on their own. They were just on that cusp. They were nearly big enough, but perhaps they just had a few other issues. Anyway, there's no guarantees when you catch a swarm that they're going to make it to be in a productive hive, but so far, so good. We'll see what happens in a month's time.